أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Reflections on the Risale-i Nur by Bediuzzaman Said Nursi podcast. This, inshallah, is going to be the first podcast. This and the following few episodes are going to be introductory. We will first read the information that is already provided on the website in the introduction section. Each of the 4 parts of the introduction will constitute one episode, and these are going to be: what is the Risale-i Nur, who is Bediuzzaman Said Nursi, why read the Risale-i Nur, and how to read the Risale-i Nur. The purpose of providing audio copies of these parts of the website, pages of the website, is so that those who do not have the time or maybe interest and patience to read through the web page can download the episode and listen to it, maybe while driving on the car, putting it on the speakers, maybe while walking, taking a walk, somewhere in a nice place, hopefully, with their earbuds, so that it will be easier for those who prefer to listen rather than to read, inshallah. All right, there we go. What is the Risale-i Nur? The Risale-i Nur is a Qur'anic commentary. It makes substantial contributions to the Islamic tradition, especially in the fields of kalam, tasawwuf, which would be dialectical theology, kalam, and Sufism, tasawwuf, but also offers important insights about the methodologies of the sciences of Qur'anic exegesis and prophetic traditions, that is, tafsīr and hadīth. To some extent, it provides important contributions on usul fiqh too. But what is most obvious, what is most what comes through really forcefully in the Risale-i Nur is its contributions in dialectical theology and tasawwuf, Sufism, and also tafsīr, the methodology of the science of Qur'anic exegesis, and hadīth, the methodology of the science of the prophetic traditions. This Quranic commentary was written by Bediuzzaman Said Nursi, a great scholar of the 14th century of the Islamic calendar, that is the Hijri calendar. Nursi was born in 1878 in the Kurdish regions of the Ottoman Empire. He received his initial training there, education there, in the local Islamic seminaries or madrasas, before going on to become one of the most learned, insightful, and respected scholars of the Ottoman Empire. When the Turkish Republic replaced the Ottoman Empire in the 1920s, however, the ruling elite of the new republic turned against religion, exiled Nursi to a remote village in western Turkey, and condemned him to a life of persecution until his death in 1960. Yet, Nursi managed to write his magnum opus, the Risale-i Nur Külliyatı, or the Compendium of the Epistles of Light, in this very period, during his exile. He would often dictate his teachings in the form of small treatises to the members of a small circle of devoted students who braved persecution with him. His students would then hand copy the treatises of the Risale-i Nur secretly and spread them throughout Turkey. And keep in mind, especially early on, during his early exile, the people around him were predominantly peasants, villagers, in a country where public schooling was almost non-existent. Many of them were illiterate. This is what they would do. Somebody who was literate and who had good handwriting would prepare a clean copy of the treatises of Bediuzzaman Said Nursi. And then others would take this copy, put it on a piece of glass, and put a white clean paper on it, and turn a lamp on under the glass, and then trace what they saw. Subhanallah. In this way, the Risale-i Nur spread slowly, and we will have more to say about this later on. Only in the 1950s, the Turkish state relaxed its grip on religion to some extent and allowed Nursi to publish his works openly in print. Until then, it was all manuscripts, all handwritten, right? Only in the 1950s, he was allowed to publish his works in print, more precisely 1956 or so on. Since then, however, the Risale-i Nur has been translated into dozens of languages and has inspired millions of Muslims in both Turkey and throughout the world. It is a contribution to the world's Islamic tradition. Nursi compiled his treatises into 4 major books. The first one of these, chronologically, was Sözler, or in English, the words, in Arabic, al-kalimat. The second one was Mektubat, the letters. The third one was Lemalar, the flashes, and the fourth one was Shu'alar, the rays. These 4 books constitute the main body of the Risale-i Nur, along with Nursi's correspondence with his students, statements of defense in various court trials, his authorized biography, 2 of his earlier works, and a collection of inferred references to the Risale-i Nur from the Qur'an, as well as the poems of Ali radiallahu anh and Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. And Ali radiallahu anh is, of course, the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, and the 4th Caliph. And as we will see later on, he is also the great-great-grandfather of Bediuzzaman Said Nursi. And Abdul Qadir al-Jilani is the probably the best known, most revered master of Sufism, who died in 1166. Altogether, these books, the books of the Risale-i Nur collection, amount to about 6,000 pages of print in Turkish. Yet, Nursi's overall work also comprises other earlier treatises, including 2 on logic and 1 on algebra, as well as several rearrangements of the letters and treatises of the Risale-i Nur. In the earlier part of his life, during the Ottoman era, Nursi wrote his most important works in Arabic. In the Republican era, however, he wrote mostly in Turkish, addressing the predominantly uninitiated peasants and small townspeople around him, and trying to preserve those people's faith and piety in an environment where government powers mobilized to undermine religion. Therefore, these later writings that are included in the Risale-i Nur follow a pedagogical order and style, rendering even the most complicated matters of theology more or less understandable for Nursi's uninitiated audience. However, the Risale-i Nur is also packed with profound insights and clarifications on all disciplines of Muslim thought and spirituality. As such, it is deeply integrated into a long and blessed tradition of Islamic scholarship and has its ranks among the likes of Imam Ghazali's Ihya Ulumuddin, the revival of religious sciences, Mawlana Jalaluddin Rumi's Mathnawi, Ibn Ata'illah al-Iskandari's Hikam, and Imam Rabbani Ahmed Sirhindi's Maktubat, the letters. Thus, Risale-i Nur is not just an ordinary commentary on the Qur'an. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece that is grounded firmly in the Qur'an, that affirms and provides evidence for the agreed upon aspects of the Islamic tradition while offering reasonable solutions to matters of disputation, and that connects the Qur'an and prophetic teachings to a sound observation of the cosmos, that is, the observed reality. It does not offer a verse-by-verse commentary from the first chapter of the Qur'an to the last. Instead, it focuses on key concepts and messages of the Qur'an that are most relevant to the problems, concerns, and questions of the contemporary world. It is not the product of an effort to demonstrate the author's intellectual capacity to master and synthesize earlier scholarly works without a corresponding realization of truth with a capital T. Rather, it is the product of a true realization of the reality as reality is. It is the product of a true realization of the reality as reality is, and this happens for Bediuzzaman Said Nursi under the guidance of the Qur'an. The author, Bediuzzaman Said Nursi, attains this realization through a sincere intellectual and spiritual struggle, first with his own compulsive soul, nafs, and then with the suspicions and misguidance of a positivist and self-indulgent age, and comes out successful, comes out having realized from this spiritual crisis under the guidance of the Qur'an. The tremendousness of that reality as illuminated by the Qur'an reflects on the Risale-i Nur. Nursi does not waste a single word. Keep in mind, he is writing about something that is tremendous. He does not have words to be wasted. He has a lot to impart to his students. Therefore, he writes in a concise and tightly packed narrative that enables multiple layers of understanding in accordance with the reader's intellectual as well as spiritual preparedness. Yet, the more a person reads the Risale-i Nur, the more their preparedness increases, enabling them to come back to the Risale-i Nur and discover new meanings and pathways to realization in it. Therefore, sincere readers of the Risale-i Nur maximize the benefits of engaging this blessed commentary by reading it not just once, but continually and repeatedly. Nursi's students and readers refer to him as Ustad in Turkish, or Ustad in Arabic, meaning a teaching master. So Bediuzzaman Said Nursi was a teaching master, Ustad, and that's how we are going to refer to him from here on. Among Ustad Nursi's teaching methods is tamsil or tamthil in Arabic, that is, the use of representations, comparisons, or parables to explain complex ideas and facts. Remember, we said he's a teaching master. This was his method of teaching, right? He was trying to make things easy for his audience to understand, but at the same time, he was trying to articulate very complex realities that did not necessarily fit in the boundaries of language, plain language, and therefore he used metaphors and parables to make them, to render them possible to articulate in language. Ustad Nursi takes his example in utilizing this method from the Qur'an. So the method of tamthil, representation, is a Qur'anic method. And he takes it as well also from other great teaching masters of earlier times, such as Maulana Rumi and Sa'd Shirazi. Thus, most treatises of the Risale-i Nur first bring the subject closer to the reader's understanding by setting a pattern of thought or line of argumentation, or we might also refer to this with a somewhat fancier word and say a cognitive framework, right? So it first brings the subject closer to the reader's understanding by setting a pattern of thought or line of argumentation through tamsil or representation. Then the treatises of the Risale-i Nur use this pattern to describe or elucidate a sublime truth that could have otherwise remained too complicated or abstract for the reader to comprehend. Ustad Nursi was a master of logic and logical argumentation. He used both of them competently in his earlier works and scholarly interactions. His sharp grasp on logical argumentation undergirds his later teachings in the Risale-i Nur as well. However, he found representation to be a more powerful method in teaching, clarifying, and in some cases even proving intricate matters. Therefore, he used it throughout his later works. The representations of the Risale-i Nur appear to be simple and easy, but that simplicity actually reflects how well Ustad Nursi had digested and realized the vast body of Islamic knowledge that he was imparting in the Risale-i Nur. The Risale-i Nur does not demand blind following. The Risale-i Nur does not demand blind following because of the scholarly authority or spiritual rank of the book's author. Bediuzzaman Said Nursi was a great Gnostic, saint, scholar, but his main work, Risale-i Nur, does not demand blind following because of his rank. Rather, the Risale-i Nur, presents the intellect with convincing arguments that prove the truth of the teachings of the Qur'an and its blessed conveyor, Muhammad, the messenger of God, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him. In doing this, the Risale-i Nur goes beyond synthesizing and reiterating the accomplishments of a long tradition of Islamic scholarship. It calibrates the teachings and arguments of that tradition to the challenges of the world since the scientific revolution, and resolves those challenges with sound evidence and persuasion. Even in matters of the unseen, that dialectical theologians have traditionally considered to be beyond the domain of rational argumentation, such as bodily resurrection in the hereafter or the existence of angels, the Risale-i Nur offers rational proofs. Nevertheless, the Risale-i Nur also recognizes that what holds people off from having certainty in matters of faith is often not a lack of rational proofs, but the weaknesses of the heart and the compulsive soul, the nafs. Therefore, the Risale-i Nur addresses the intellect, the heart, and the compulsive soul simultaneously, with a careful pedagogical approach. First, it activates the imagination with the method of representation, both to guide the heart gently to a sound position and to demonstrate the compulsive soul that true happiness and satisfaction in this world and in the hereafter lie in having certainty in faith and living accordingly, in accordance with that faith. Second, the Risale-i Nur empowers its readers with certainty in the truth of faith and religion without exposing them to a false alternative to which one's compulsive soul may incline. It does so by focusing on the truth as opposed to various formulations of falsehood. I.e., it does not say, look, this is what other people have said, this is what your nafs may be inclined to believe, but it is wrong. I'm going to prove you why it is wrong, and then this is what is true. It does not do this. It just presents the truth. So that those falsehoods do not tarnish the minds of pure people, the minds and hearts of pure, sincere people to whom those falsehoods would not have otherwise appeared at all. So it's not like a textbook that's going to try to give you all of the information that's possibly out there about the subject matter that's being discussed. That's not the point of the Risale-i Nur. The point of the Risale-i Nur is to help you attain certainty in faith. So it does so by focusing on the truth as opposed to various formulations of falsehood. While scholarly works of theology often begin with the refutations of falsehood and then proceed to the description and proofs of the truth, treatises of the Risale-i Nur rarely employ the method of refutation. There are occasions in which Bediuzzaman Said Nursi, Ustad Nursi, is going to employ the method of refutation when it is apt and due. But in most cases, it does not use that method. Instead, the treatises of the Risale-i Nur explain and establish the truths of faith and religion directly with a rich array of representations. Importantly, the concepts and arguments that the Risale-i Nur introduces with these representations issue from and expand on a well-digested and internalized understanding of the Qur'an. It's not Bediuzzaman Said Nursi's philosophy. It is rather inspiration from the Qur'an, which in Arabic or in Old Ottoman Turkish was called sunuhat. Inspirations from the Qur'an to his heart. Again, importantly, the concepts and arguments that the Risale-i Nur introduces with these representations issue from and expand on a well-digested and internalized understanding of the Qur'an. As such, they stand out as timeless expositions of the reality as described in the Qur'an by the all-knowing creator of all reality, and therefore reality as such. This is a very important matter. Inshallah, it is going to be more and more clear as we proceed and read various treatises of the Risale-i Nur on the subject. But it is very important to emphasize here that the Qur'an was sent down by the all-knowing creator of all reality, who is not bound by time and space. Therefore, God's, the all-knowing creator's message is timeless, and that timelessness reflects upon the truthful commentaries of the Qur'an as well. Thus, an uninitiated reader who studies the Risale-i Nur does not acquire encyclopedic knowledge of the philosophical or theological positions that remain antithetical to the teachings of the Qur'an. But they learn the rational as well as empirical proofs for the Qur'anic position on those issues. That is, by reading the Risale-i Nur, they attain a comprehensive realization of reality with a capital R. Consequently, if and when they are exposed to misleading arguments, they find themselves to be fully equipped to recognize them as false and to refute them on rational grounds. We can think of this as being given access to a detailed map of the terrain that we are moving on. For one who does not have that access to that detailed map, Anybody that he or she comes across on the road may provide false information and mislead them to different parts of the terrain where this person should otherwise not be going to. Whereas the Quran is sent down by the one who knows all, who knows the big picture, who created the terrain and who knows its map better than anybody else. And in the Quran, he provides us access to that map. And truthful commentaries of the Quran help us read that map in our particular times and places. But they expose a timeless message wherever and whenever they are written. And therefore, one who reads the Risale-i Nur sincerely, carefully, with understanding, with respect, continually, and so on and so forth. These are all aspects that we will discuss in the section on how to read the Risale-i Nur, inshallah. One who reads the Risale-i Nur in this way and benefits from it has an understanding of that big picture, has access to that detailed map, and although he is not told about each and every troublemaker on the way, about each and every person who may mislead the reader as the reader travels on this terrain, although he may not be provided information about all the falsehoods, all the wrong directions on the road, he knows the correct direction. He can tell truth from falsehood, and therefore is equipped with a very, very useful, helpful, powerful shield on the way as he or she travels. So again, but they learn the rational as well as empirical proofs for the Quranic position on those issues. That is, by reading the Risale-i Nur, they attain a comprehensive realization of reality with a capital R. Consequently, if and when they are exposed to misleading arguments, they find themselves to be fully equipped to recognize them as false and to refute them on rational grounds. Finally, the Risale-i Nur carries the blessings of the divine inspiration that its author received from the Quran in writing this masterful commentary. As a result, decades of experience shows that those who read the Risale-i Nur with a sincere intention and persevere to understand it are moved to action. As a sign of the knowledge that fills their hearts from their exposure to the Quranic light that refracts through the Risale-i Nur, they feel an urge. They feel an urge to share and spread that knowledge. It is an urge. The more you are exposed to reality, the more you are exposed to truth, the more you want to share it. Here, the Risale-i Nur guides its readers to what Ustad Nursi has called positive action. Now, there is an urge to share and spread the knowledge. There is an urge for action. But this is not any action. The Risale-i Nur guides its readers to what Ustad Nursi has called positive action. So it provides guidelines about action too. And this might be summarized as 1. To act with confidence in and devotion to one's own cause and not to be reactive in a world of fleeting conflicts. 2. To move deliberately and peacefully with consideration for the well-being of all and with mercy for all. And 3. To focus only on presenting the truth and representing it in good character. For while it is unto man to make an effort, success and guidance are from God alone. Okay, this is the end of this first episode. May God put blessings in it, and may God give us the ability to continue and inshallah read through the entire Risale-i Nur. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.